Let's give it up. Okay, let's toss it to Sean. Hello.
Thanks, Rachel. So I'm Sean Finnegan. I'm the Vice President of North America for HyperSKU. So we a product sourcing company, but specialize in apparel, so line creation, working with influencers, creators, building lines for their live selling, and really into the social commerce aspect. So I'll talk a little bit about that later.
Awesome. Hi, guys. Okay. Hi. Oh, good. Okay. We're awake. Are you guys ready for 50 Cent tonight? Are we excited? On this stage. Rachel, we get to say that we opened for 50 Cent. How cool is that?
I know that he is doing his sound check not too long after. So we're going to have mimosas, and then we're all going to be looking for some 50 Cent behind the scenes moments. I'm here for that.
Well, I'm Hillary Billings. I am the co-founder and CEO of Attentioneers, and we help personal brands and entrepreneurs to grow their reach and revenue through short-form video strategies. So TikToks, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Anyone familiar with that headache in their world, and how the heck do we do that? Understand that completely. My background is a content creator, an accidental content creator. I came from the journalism world, working for USA Today, producing for E! News for a number of years. And then around 2020, during the pandemic, all of our income streams dried up, and we were approached about starting online content. And I thought, how hard could it be? We already knew how to make digital content. Let's just go ahead and make videos. Turns out it's a lot harder than you think it's going to be. Anyone had that headache before? Or if you think I'm seeing some head nods, yes. So we spent 9 months banging our heads against a wall, trying to figure out how to make content work. And everything just seemed so easy. You had these viral creators that were doing so well, and they picked up their phones. And then we started asking the question, what if everything that we thought was accidental was actually really intentional? And so we watched thousands of viral videos, and we cataloged them, and we across platforms, and we realized that there was a formula and a science for how to make viral videos. So we went from 0 views in the first 9 months to over 1 billion organic views in the next 12 months, and grew my following from 0 to 400,000 followers in 40 days. And now through Attentioneers, we help our clients to 250x their results, and to be able to get in front of the audiences that they want and capture attention and do it authentically to them. So I'm so excited to be a part of this panel, and we're going to have a great time. Are you guys ready? All right. And you get to sit down, which is also really nice of you.
I know. I really wanted to sit down, so I felt like I wasn't alone in that. So when Hillary, Sean, and I were talking about this conversation, we were very intentional about making it more of a workshop, because I feel like when you come to these amazing conversations, the first thing we think about is, how does this affect me? How does it impact my business? And how can I show up differently tomorrow? Who's here to show up differently? Right? I'm ready to show up differently. I'm ready to be more impactful. I'm ready to make a difference. And so I think the most important thing is, number one, really getting honed in on falling in love with your customer. Have you guys fallen in love with your customers yet? I think when you're falling in love with your customer and you're really thinking about what do they need, what do they want, what is important to them, what burns in their heart, how can I show up as a brand with intentionality in my conversation and my content? And then you start thinking about that customer, you love them, and you want to start sourcing the right products for them, right? You know what they struggle with, you know what they need help with. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in with Sean first, because Sean, you have done such an amazing job with HyperSKU, of course, with sourcing, but also you've worked with Amazon. You speak at all of their events, and you help them think differently about e-commerce. And I think as we think about our branding and our business, we are here to shop. We are here to supply our customer needs and to be able to grow businesses in the process.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. So yeah, as Rachel mentioned, so my background is 20 years in e-com. So everything from helping giant global apparel brands launch on marketplaces and their own websites across the globe. Everything from logistics to product launches for major brands across the globe as well. So a lot of experience in that aspect. And now with HyperSKU, I bring that experience to be able to work with not only boutique owners, but folks that are doing TikTok shop, live selling, Instagram, all those types of things. So we're able to build that foundation. So the influencer or the boutique or that new brand can focus on all of their branding, where I help and the not so glamorous stuff, but making sure that the foundation is built for operational efficiency, making sure you have a strategy, making sure everything you're doing is cost effective, those types of things. So that's where HyperSKU and myself really come into play, is setting you up for success, because the fun stuff, doing the Instagram, the ads, the TikTok stuff, that's all exciting, but without the product at the end of the day in that foundation, it just really doesn't work. And it's very easy to get stuff up and start selling, but it's very, very easy to lose customers as well if everything isn't executed upon. So from my perspective, and one of my key things is always making sure you have a strategy in place, you're efficient, you have your SOPs, those types of things. And that's something that I always stress with our clients at HyperSKU as well.
Sean, I love your strategy. We've had so many conversations. My joke with Sean is that we're not allowed to have conversations later in the afternoon, because then I won't sleep. Because we'll go, who has friends like that? You know what I mean? Where you go through so many big ideas and you're like, wait a minute, I can't sleep, I'm so excited. But I do want to get into your brain a little bit on the strategizing, because I think a lot of us here, yes, I need to strategize, but what does that really mean? So from your perspective, what do you think is really important? Because of course we're here at the show, we're shopping products. We want to make sure we're investing in products that's going to have an ROI for our business. But what goes into strategy in your mind when it comes to supplying the products that your customer wants to shop?
Yeah, so from my perspective and what I've seen, it's very much planning ahead of time. That is super important. Like, that's first and foremost, understanding your numbers, consulting with different people, doing a lot of your own research, realizing what it takes to start an endeavor before you get into it. And then I'm always an advocate for working with many different partners. So, any major brand out there that's pushing product across the globe, they don't do it themselves. They work with a lot of different partners. So I think a real big key thing is, understand the partners that you're working with, making sure that they're an extension of your team. That's what we strive for at HyperSKU. You can shop at a lot of different wholesale places and not necessarily get that concierge experience, but we really stress that if you work with us as a partner, or any of your partners for e-com, it's so important to build that relationship with them and really monitor them. Have your own KPIs, understand on-time delivery and those types of things. So partnerships are critical in this, I would say.
I couldn't agree more. And Hillary, I love your approach to content, because I think you do that in partnerships. Obviously, you've already worked with so many incredible media outlets. Getting 1 billion views, yes, a B. I mean, that's a big deal. And you've studied so much content to get there. So I think as we're here and we're shopping, we're also creating content, right? My joke is like, if you didn't show it on social media, it didn't happen, right? But also, the truth is that so many people could reach that content and see that content and really catapult it. So talking about strategy and partnerships, Hillary, what would you say is so important in that viral blueprint of yours to really help our attendees today grow and scale?
100%. I think the first thing that we have to realize is that we are in such a saturated market. So 20 million new videos are being posted every day to social media. The attention spans have gone down 25% in the past 10 years. The average person sees between 10 to 20,000 ads every single day. So what this means is that if you build it, they won't come. You have to earn attention. We have to think about people and the user experience as they're scrolling, and that they're going to have apathy towards you. It's really not about awareness. It's about getting over the apathy. And that's the biggest challenge that you have to overcome. And so you do that by making content worth raving about. You do that by making content that they care about. And you do that by being able to communicate to your audience what you care about and your values. So what we found in studying thousands and thousands of viral videos and producing thousands and thousands of viral videos, we got into a groove at one point where 1 in every 4 of our videos was getting over 1 million views, 1 in every 10 was getting over 10 million views. And the cool thing about social media right now is that people are finding you based upon their interest, not familiarity, which means that if you have a small boutique or you have a small following, that's actually okay, because followers don't matter. What matters is what the users are watching. So for example, I watch a lot of raccoon content. I have a friend, she and I have an exclusive friendship of just sending raccoon memes back and forth. That is our entire friendship. Anyone have a friend like that you just send them one specific thing and that's how you show your love? So I get served all sorts of additional raccoon content all the time because that's what I watch. So when you're trying to think about what your audience wants, start to consider the content and curate that for what they're already watching. Now there's 3 components that we found exist within every viral video. And if there's content that you love, that you've posted, that you had your heart and soul into, and you're like, man, I don't understand what happened, it's probably because it didn't contain one of these 3 components. And if you had something that you just put up and you're like, I don't know why that did well, but that is suddenly blowing up, it's probably because it had these 3 things. So there's a lot of complexity to this, but the first one seems very obvious. It must grab attention. You have 2.5 seconds for someone to ask the question, what's going on here? And so if you get them to ask that question, they're going to give you another 2.5 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, right? But you're earning the attention every step of the way. So we have to be very intentional about that opening image. What's stopping the scroll? How are we making it very clear what they're going to get out of this video? If you don't set that up appropriately, they're going to keep scrolling because they don't know what they're watching. And even if you just watch your own viewer habits and just take the observer approach of, why did I stop on this video? You might start to notice that there are certain things that a video requires in order to capture your attention. So that's number 1, must grab attention. The second thing is it must spark an emotion. If you want a video to go viral, it has to exhibit an emotion and elicit an emotion from your viewer. That could be joy, that could be curiosity, it could be wonder, it could be anger. Right? Are you cutting up a wedding dress and styling it and making it different? Are you showing them all the wonderful wedding gown options that they could have in the style of Taylor Swift, right? How are you exhibiting an emotion? And the truth is when people get emotional, that's when they get promotional. It's the emotion that is going to cause them to share the content. It's going to cause them to be like, oh my gosh, Rachel, this is so you. This is so me. This is so us. How funny is that? Right? That's when you share a piece of content, is when you're able to capture the emotion. So we want to grab attention, we want to spark an emotion. The third piece is we need to create a curiosity gap. What are they waiting for? What's going to keep them watching to the end? What question are we answering for them? Someone gets down on a knee in a video. The immediate question you have is this other person going to say yes to the proposal? And you're waiting around to find out. So we have to make sure that we're creating a question within the viewer's mind as to what they're waiting for. So if we're able to grab attention, if we're able to spark an emotion, and if we're able to create a curiosity gap as to what they're waiting for, or how we're going to complete the answer to the question, or the answer to the journey, or the transformation of going from A to B, this is why HGTV house transformations are so successful. If we're able to do all those 3 things, we're going to find our content is going to resonate more with our audiences.
That was amazing. Did you guys write that down? I know, that was really solid. Woo! And now I want to speak a little bit about my heart behind why I show up at Magic and why I think that these conversations are so powerful. Hi, Carly. Oh my goodness, you guys. Carly Buxton. I am obsessed with her and her jewels. So I believe that a lot of us get stuck and we don't even realize it. Have you felt stuck in your business in the past 12 months? Just felt like you were discouraged, like you were like, I'm not really clear about what I'm doing. I think that we sit at these conversations and we hear this stuff and then we take it and we're like, what do I do with it, right? How do I build a business around it? So I've started a few companies, I've sold one. My main focus is the McCord List and Launchpreneur, where we help people kind of crack open the things that are bothering them. And I'm gonna talk about a couple things that I think are really important so that you can do that effectively. So we know what to do when it comes to content, right? We know to supply products our customer cares about, but how do you create that consistently? How do you consistently show up with your customer? Because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I have like freeze frame when I'm trying to record. I'm like ready to go and I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. I get nervous, or I hold myself back, or I think, no one wants to hear that. What do I have to say? So I think what we want to do, whether we're fashionistas, beautyistas, somewhere in between, it's really important to be really intentional with our voice across the board, where we start honing in on why we're doing what we do. Because if you think about it from a branding perspective and a marketing perspective, which is my passion, I love creating things that are just really going to capture you and want to bring you in, right? Hillary, you talk a lot about that with the content, right? Like having that curiosity. And I believe the power in this is in our power and our ability to create community. Has anyone here already started to create community around their business? So thinking differently about how you're engaging, how you're really tapping in. So an example of this is with the McCord list, we did a road trip to Magic one time where we hosted like 20 influencers and we drove them in a party bus, and it was so much fun. It was wild though. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be hurting the whole time at Magic. But we stopped and we did all these photo shoots and all these things. And what happened was people got to be invited to that. We got to engage our local community, to be able to encourage them to be a part of community, to be a part of something bigger. And I think when we start doing that, we show up at that capacity. If we're finding ourselves stuck in our business, I think it's because we're forgetting the true community that we're speaking to. And I don't mean just like what's my fashion community, but like if you're an introvert behind an iPhone and you're trying to build a business, talk about that. Talk about what it is that really means for you to be showing up in your business effectively. I think that when we start to do that, there's a power in that, and we can do that again and again. We can create viral videos again and again. We can sell products again and again because we're able to carry a message that doesn't just start and stop when that video starts. Do you guys feel that? Okay, so Sean, I want you to talk a little bit about when you're connecting the dots between supplying and the boutiques, and what have you seen to be most effective for people as they're trying to get unstuck, they're trying to move with their business. Like, what are some of the things you think get people stuck when it comes to sourcing, when it comes to building a business?
I think definitely the biggest question I get asked is, okay, I want to do this. I am a creator. I have a following. I want to start creating something, but they're not necessarily sure, right? So they haven't found that passion that you talk about. I think it's really important to work through those things and understand, think about things that you're good at or things that you are very passionate about. That can help you lead, brings you down the path of what you want to sell. If you're into fishing, right? So start getting into fishing gear, those types of things. But it's really like, what is your passion? It's so difficult for folks to sometimes hone in on that and understand what they want to sell. And it typically doesn't necessarily work out. But those folks that do know what they are interested in and want to build a business from that, those are the ones that we've worked with and seen the most success from, for sure.
That's incredible. And then Hillary, for you, building your business and being able to come from a passionate place, I think it's really fun when you see your business trajectory, and it's like you started here creating content and then you just continue doing content. You just went to a different medium. What do you feel is really important for boutique owners, brand owners, as they're diversifying the different platforms, but trying to be able to connect with them through their passion, like Sean's talking about?
Well, I think for starters, regardless of the platform that you're on, short form video is the way of the future. And if that is something that you are resistant to, I encourage you to start experimenting and looking into it. Adobe released a study this time last year that 80% of the time that we're on our cell phones, we are watching short form video. So when we think about where we want to meet our consumer, and if we're going with Pareto's law of 80-20 and trying to connect with them, you can go after when they're looking at other types of content, but you're trying to catch them in that 20% of their attention and their time there. So my first recommendation would be try to see what you can do within the short form content space. And then going off of what you were saying, I think there's so much beauty in knowing, even if you don't know what product you're going to sell yet, and just looking at your brand and what you value. Because oftentimes you can find a connection of, hey, I value sustainability, so I'm going to look for something that is more sustainable as a product, or I value something being more eco-friendly. So what kind of products can I connect with that would be able to showcase that to my audience? And really focusing on making sure that your messaging, that your values and your voice, regardless of whether or not you're selling something or you're putting out a piece of content, that's consistent across the board, because that's how you continue to build momentum with your brand.
I completely agree. I think so many of us get so in our heads with the numbers and the bottom line that we're always just trying to push the sales. But the truth is if you can engage and bring value to community, think about a cohesiveness. I think that's really the message. Like, I love branding and marketing, and I look at it like, what are we trying to say across the board? Like, what is the journey, and how do we just create products that are a part of that? Ashley West is here. She's an amazing influencer and creator, and she's very And she's very intentional about choosing products that are very interesting to her and specific to her audience. And then I think when we become more authentic with our voices, and that means like really just like dropping the pretense, right? We've heard raw and authentic for so long, but what does that really mean? It means like just literally showing up fully in your business. Now, I believe that it is very important to identify what your brand filters are. Like, what is your voice in your business, right? We all know we're talking about fashion. We all know that we're being intentional with that, but also like what lessons do you want to share with the world? What message do you want to give? I believe that in the world that we see today, it's really important that we hold ourselves accountable. We have platforms and we can use those and we can leverage them and scale, and we can impact culture, right? Like whoever follows you, whoever is showing up in your content, like you have the opportunity to impact them and to carry something different. So like you're saying, Hillary, it's like if you're just there and you just want to sell the t-shirt, you're gonna sell it. Like I believe in each and every one of y'all, but the truth is there's something more powerful when you can sell a lifestyle, you can sell a passion, a heartbeat, a conversation, something that comes from your heart and actually changes the course of their lives. Because you think about it as a creative, if you could just get 1,000 people who would invest at least enough money in your business, whether like through sales, right, that you profit $100, you're making 100 grand doing what you love. That's pretty powerful. And how does that happen? It happens from building raving fans. And the only way you do that, friends, is by building a brand that is clear, right? That really connects. People could think, oh, I know Rachel's all about encouragement. She wants to put courage in, right? That's the action of encouragement. Put courage in. I want to see each of you show up differently because I want you to feel empowered to do that. And that carries into when you shop Magic. You go check out HyperSKU and you shop that booth and you're like, you feel encouraged to invest in your business. You feel encouraged to show up and create viral content because you know what you're doing is something bigger. It's gotta come from here, otherwise you're gonna get stuck. Has anyone felt that before where you're just like, I feel like I keep showing up and doing the same thing, but it's almost like Groundhog Day, you know, like I'm just doing this, I'm checking off the beats, but it's because we're not moving from our passion. And the truth is most people get into fashion because we're passionate, right? We love it. There's a reason the words rhyme, I think, right? So I think for you, Sean, what have you seen with some of the biggest brands and biggest successes of your career and the ones that you've watched? Like, what have you seen to be consistent when it comes to building that cohesive community and translating it to sales? Because you're a data guy. You look at the numbers and you got some crazy numbers on TikTok Shop and the sales. So I know you look at all that. So what are some of the things that you've seen have been consistent that can help our team here like really pull it to the next level?
Yeah, I think
pressure, by the way. Just like, how can we do everything different? And like, where's my notepad?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the passion has to be there, you know, between whether you have a small team or multiple teams at a large brand. So like the pandemic, for example, I was working with some very big brands during that time, and it was super difficult. You know, e-commerce did really well at some point, but it also struggled. But I saw, you know, major brands make big decisions on how to shift, right? So if it's more formal wear, they ended up shifting to like athleisure. And it's, you know, having to take those risks and understanding and being able to adapt and be agile, you know, as big as, you know, some of those companies are. They were passionate enough and cared enough about their brands, their brand story, and being able to change that story to adapt to something like, you know, as crazy as the pandemic. So I think, you know, having that love for what you're doing, the brand that you're working for, it's really important to allow you to be able to adapt and be successful.
I couldn't agree more. Hillary, if you were starting over tomorrow, what would you do in this climate today with content the way that it is and all the things? Obviously you have this incredible viral blueprint that you're sharing with the audience, but also like what would you do today that might be different for someone just starting out?
I think for starters, I wouldn't be in a rush. You've got to have a strong foundation in order to be able to build off of it. And some questions that you need to ask yourself before you start creating content that are incredibly important to your journey are, one, who are you trying to serve? Who's your audience? Right? What is your primary business model? Where are we trying to direct them? Because the goal of the content, as much as we want to entertain, we want to add value, you guys are business owners, you want to send them somewhere. So we need to know where we're trying to send them so we can make sure the content is going to help them get there. And then from there, we want to look at What are your brand values and voice? When I think of authenticity, for me, the authenticity formula is just your values plus your voice. So your values, what do you care about? What do you care about as a brand? And then your voice is your personality. How do you want to come across? Are you friendly? Are you sweet? Are you to the point? Are you that guy that just is angry at everything on TikTok, but he's saying really nice things to people, right? What is the thing that you want people to know about you or your company? Sarah Blakely is a very different brand than Mark Cuban. And so you could very easily go down the line with a lot of these big personal brands and be able to say, oh, this person is your best friend. This person's going to tell it like it is. What does that look like for you? And then you can start looking at what type of content do you want to create and how do we engineer that to capture and keep attention to then make sure you can convert people from there. So those are a lot of the big questions that you should be asking, because to me, one of the most heartbreaking things is to see someone falling under the pressure of, I just have to put something up, I just have to put something up. And then we all are familiar with that entrepreneurial journey where we start and it's okay, we've got the uninformed optimism. We're just going to start something because it's exciting. And then we get to the informed pessimism that it's not as easy as we thought it was going to be. And then we hit the pit of despair of like, well, this doesn't work for me. And TikTok's the worst and I can't seem to make it happen. So no one wants to hear from me and I should just give up. And we often don't ever make it to the informed optimism part, which is, okay, what is the strategy that I'm going to employ? And so if we're able to start thinking about how can we be intentional with our content, how can we not put so much pressure on the content to need to perform right away, especially in a world where we have so much immediate feedback coming to us and it's so easy to look at the 0 views and say, well, clearly I did something wrong, and start to put on your experimental hat and know that it's going to be a process. You know, when I see the difference between professionals and amateur content creators, professionals post and test while amateurs hope for the best. Right? That's the difference, is that the professional doesn't hold any of the content process. They create a strategy and they say, we're going to try this and we're going to post 30 videos and I'm not going to look at any of the results. And then afterwards, I'm going to go back and look at the data and be like, interesting, this one did well, this one didn't. What was the difference between these two pieces of content? And they're not going to take it personally on them or on their brand or their business. It's just like anything else in business. You have to be able to hold it away from you and away from your identity to know that this is all about finding the content that resonates with your audience and then working with the algorithm to do that. So the more that you're able to be intentional about it and then be intentional on the back end of it, I think you're going to see more success, because that's going to give you the endurance to keep going, because you're not going to be able to get in your head about it, and that's also going to keep you from those moments of getting in front of the camera and feeling that lack of confidence and that insecurity because you're needing that external validation. No, this is about you adding value to somebody else and you figuring out how to get it out in front of the right people.
I agree with that. And I also think it's very important to position yourself and see yourself as the expert. Because a lot of us come to these things and we're like, okay, I need to learn, and it's true. But when you show up and you think, you know what, I have the power in this moment to be able to do the research I need to do, to feel empowered, to show up as an expert and to share my message and to be able to make a difference in my business. I think that that's really important. I do a show for Bloomberg Television called Female Founders, and I get to interview all of these amazing women and hear their stories. And you would be surprised how many of them are feeling the insecurities that we feel every day as entrepreneurs, right? Like some of us have been working in business for a long time and doing so many things, and we've stepped away from that to do our passion, and we're not always seeing it translate right away, and it can be a little daunting, it can be a little overwhelming. But I think when we start to tap into that and say, okay, what am I missing? What do I need to do differently? Like, how can I hone in on that deeper? I think it really starts to change the game.
You know, to that point, Rachel, relatability is what is authentic. And people love relatable. We hear that term all the time, make your content relatable. Well, what makes content relatable is vulnerability and being able to say, hey, I'm scared. I don't know how to show up. I don't know how to look like. I don't know anything. And there's somebody out there that's feeling that too. And they can only hear that message from you because you're the other person on the other end of your calling is because someone else out there needs to hear it from you, because someone else out there needs your services. And if you're willing to show up and be vulnerable, then that's how the relatability bridge is built.
Great. Sean, what would you add to that? What do you think is really important with your business to be able to be relatable and to find the products that people will really shop? Because I think that translates, right? Like, we want to be able to present ourselves as an expert, show our brand that's cohesive and consistent, but leveraging technology, I think, is really powerful when you're able to say, like, how do I pull this in? How do I source more effectively so that I don't get weighed down with the stuff of my business that I don't necessarily want to or am able to do?
Yeah. So, like, from the HyperSKU perspective, the service that we provide, it's very different than some wholesale sites. Like, a lot of people want to get started, say, well, Sean, I'm going to go to Alibaba, I'm going to find these things, but I'm scared. I don't necessarily know if this is going to work out. So we, instilled in our businesses way more of a one-on-one concierge service to be able to work with you, guide you in the right direction, tell you if, okay, this product's not the right one for you. Everything from, helping with the trends, building collections, those types of things. They often ask us what's trending. We make sure we're ahead of the game in terms of having those trending products ready for those folks. So when they, come in and say, I've got my TikTok shop or I have my Shopify store, they want to understand what's trending at that time. So we try and really stay ahead of the game there and being able to supply them with what they need.
I think that's so good, because I think a lot of times too, we're here and we're like, we know we can shop fashion, but I want to get it all. I don't want to just shop fashion. I want to get the other verticals. So I love how HyperSKU does that. I think it makes it so much easier. It's like one-stop shop, like Ashley said.